Sir, good morning.
Good morning.
Shall we start, sir?
Yeah.
Good morning, all of you. On behalf of Department of Civil Engineering, Dr. NGP Institute of Technology, I welcome all of you for this 3 days faculty development program on research areas and funding opportunities. I am very much privileged and proud in welcoming our today's chief guest, Dr. A.R. Shantakumar, former professor, Indian Institute of Technology, Chennai, and also Sir worked as um, former worked in Anna University, Chennai in disaster management department. Very much happy to have Sir for today's session.
Good morning,
Thank you for
sir.
accepting our invitation, sir. I welcome all the participants for the one-day program for this 3 days FDP on research areas and funding opportunities. Now I invite Ms. Shobna, coordinator of the program, to introduce the guest to the participants. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. It is a great honor for me in this fine morning to welcome and introduce today's speaker, Dr. A.R. Shantakumar. Dr. A.R. Shantakumar is a former Dean and Chairman of Faculty of Civil Engineering, Anna University, and a former Emeritus Professor in Indian Institute of Technology, Madras. He was advisor, Shelter Reconstruction and Rehabilitation, United Nations Team for Recovery Support, UNDP India. Currently, he is a consultant and a professor at Center for Disaster Mitigation and Management, Department of Civil Engineering, College of Engineering, Guindy. He received his MSc Engineering degree from the Madras University and obtained his PhD from the University of Canterbury, New Zealand, as a Commonwealth Scholar. He started his career as a junior engineer in PWD and a lab assistant at College of Engineering, Guindy. Step by step, he progressed as lecturer, assistant professor, and professor, head of the department, and finally Dean of Civil Engineering at Guindy. On his retirement in 2003, he was invited to be the Emeritus Professor at Indian Institute of Technology, Madras. He has contributed a number of research papers to national and international journals and delivered invited lectures in New Zealand, Australia, USA, and Singapore. He has coordinated the International Conference on Disaster Mitigation and Management during 1997 and a number of workshops in the field of concrete construction. He has set up Center for Disaster Mitigation and Management with assistance from UNDRO and Building Technology Center with assistance from HUDCO at Anna University. He was responsible to introduce MS by Research, ME in Construction Engineering and Management at Anna University for the first time. Besides teaching, he guides PhD students and provides consultancy to many organizations in concrete construction engineering problems. Under his guidance, 30 students received their PhD degree in civil engineering. He has designed a number of infrastructure projects such as bridges, shelters, towers, dams, and plants for major public corporations, railways, and government of Tamil Nadu. Some of the structures he designed include Coimbatore Bus Shelter, extension to Central Station, MGR Memorial, Kamaraj Memorial, bridges in OMR Road, etc. He received Best Paper Vishweshwaraya Award from Institution of Civil Engineers India. He received Outstanding Researchers Award from the Central Board of Irrigation and Power for his work on transmission line towers. He has received ACCE Nagadi Award for the best book published on transmission line towers from ACCE India. He has also published a very popular book on concrete technology, which again received the ACCE award. Recently, Sar was acknowledged as an outstanding academic and was awarded the prestigious Vishwakarma Award of Construction Industry Development Council. He also received recently Rajarajan Award from the Federation of All Civil Engineers Association of Tamil Nadu. We are very happy to have such an eminent person with us. Sir, once again, on behalf of Department of Civil Engineering, Dr. NGP Institute of Technology, I welcome you to this faculty development program. Kindly take over the session, sir.
Thank you very much for the nice words of introduction. It is indeed a privilege for me to address the research workers in the area of research and teaching. I have been involved in very many research programs, and it is really, I should thank your institute for giving me an opportunity to share some of my thoughts on how to be a good research worker, as well as how to attract good research projects for any institution. I started my career in 1965, and from 1965 to 2003, I was with College of Engineering, Dindi, where I was responsible for attracting many research projects from various funding agencies. Before I go, I thought I would present to you in the form of a PowerPoint presentation, and therefore I would like to share my screen to you. Can somebody help me from there?
Yes, sir. Shall I share the screen, sir?
Yeah. Yeah. I hope you are able to see the screen. Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What I am going to talk to you in about 1 hour or so is on the research for a faculty member to take research as a profession. In fact, that was my own aim when I joined engineering college as a lab assistant. The laboratory was at my disposal, and hence I could do many experiments in the laboratory, and at the same time look at the research work that was going on at that part of time in many institutions, both in India as well as abroad. Thus started my career teaching students in the laboratory the art of testing. In fact, research per se goes with serious testing and validation, and therefore I was really overwhelmed by the amount of machinery that was available at that time in the laboratory. But the use of machinery is dependent on the projects that you are able to attract from various institutions. So one of the important issues that was raised in those times was how to attract good research projects. To attract good research projects, you should have good institution with good laboratory with good faculty members. So we should be able to build up a team which will be able to attract good research projects. What are the types of research projects that you will be able to get? You will be, per se, research itself can be divided into two categories. One, fundamental research to applied research. Applied research is also called sponsored research. We call it as sponsored research because somebody has a problem, he wants a solution. For that solution, he is prepared to pay money, and that is why he is able to sponsor. If your institution is good, industries will come and sponsor projects, and those projects will be research projects. This is one way to get into and tap the resources that are available with the industry, and at the same time encourage faculty to do research in the areas that are being sponsored. Sponsored research per se will not show you the strength of the department. The strength of the department lies in their pursuing fundamental research. What is the area? How will you distinguish between fundamental research and sponsored research? Is fundamental research is funded only by the government. It is not funded by industry. Either it is funded by the government or it is funded by your own resource. Therefore, you will have to have resource to fund the fundamental research, and to fund the fundamental research, if your department has to have a fund, that fund has to come from industry. How will industry pay you funds for doing fundamental research? They will not pay you funds for doing fundamental research, but they have a problem to solve. It may not be a research problem, it may be a technical problem. Such technical problem comes under the caption of not research, but it comes under the caption of consultancy. A faculty member becomes a consultant to an industry, and through that he invites funds to the university, and through the university the fundamental research can be funded. So this is the route in which we will have to work ourselves so that we will be able to deliver the research requirements satisfactorily. So I will go into my slides. I call it, therefore, it is very difficult to separate research and consultancy, because people will come and consult you in areas where solution is not available. Areas where solution is not available is fit for research. So even though it is taken as a consultancy, it can lead you to a research finding, and that will encourage fundamental research. These are the areas that we have to concentrate on in an institution. I will go to the next slide, please. Yeah. So ultimately, a faculty member should become a seasoned research expert. The funds will flow to an area and to a school or to a group of people where experts are able to provide solution. One, after spending years in the field or in industry, becomes a research expert. The seasoned professional, he can be called a seasoned professional. These seasoned professionals will be able to attract any amount of funds from the industry. The seasoned professional who decide to become a research consultant tends to be in high demand because of their specialized knowledge, cannot be found elsewhere. For instance, if there is a requirement, example I can tell you, there is a hole in an aircraft. If there is a hole in the aircraft, what is the stress concentration around the hole in the aircraft? The solution has to be done by making use of analysis, design, then again reanalysis, testing, validation. These things can be done by a seasoned expert. So how do you become a seasoned expert? You become a seasoned expert by growing from laboratory assistant level, seeing and performing various activities, so that at some point of time you become a seasoned expert. Experts will often become researchers, consultants, because their organization and colleagues beg them to help. In fact, industries have so many problems, they come and beg for a solution. If you are able to give a proper solution, funding is no problem, and that funds comes into the university, and from the university it goes into fundamental research. When it goes into fundamental research, ultimately it is a win-win situation. It is a win situation for the university, it is a win situation for the individual who is a research worker on that project, and it is a win situation for a person who has registered for PhD in that project. Next slide, please. Why become a consultant or a research worker? When you become a consultant or a research worker, you have to sacrifice a lot. You are saying goodbye to the predictability. You cannot say when you will be able to get a solution. Or there will not be normal progress. Sometimes you will be knowing before Edison found the correct material for the filament of a bulb, he wasted hundreds of bulbs. When somebody asked him why he has wasted so many things, he has very jocularly told that I have not wasted these. Each experiment gave me fresh knowledge. So your returns from your investment of labor, investment of your manpower, for some time will be dormant, and when it gives you returns, the returns will be quite mind-boggling. You can, at the same time, the research worker in an institution which has perfect freedom can refuse projects, dump clients, and focus on work that interests you. Why should you refuse projects? Why should you dump clients? And why should you focus work on projects which interest you? We have a limited time and we have a limited resource. With a limited time and limited resource, if you have to show your excellence, it is always worthwhile to peak in a particular niche area which is on great demand. If you spread your research work thin in different areas, you will not be able to achieve excellence. And therefore, you will have to be exceedingly careful in choosing the correct type of research work that will not only enrich your knowledge, that will create a team to work with you in your institution. Therefore, you set your rates and you set your own norms on what projects you are going to work and what is the area. I will show you some examples of what we have done. That will really convince you that what I am saying is true. Next slide. Let us say you have spent some 10 years of your career in a particular institution and you are moved from a research worker to a researcher or a consultant position in administration. What can you do to proceed with further projects? You offer your skills to other people, advise, solve problems, make recommendations, or provide specialized work such as programming, editing, designing. Look at this: programming, very important; editing, very important; designing, writing or business analysis. Ultimately, money is in industry. So to tap the money from industry, you should do business analysis. Usually, consultants are paid by hour or day or project. Suppose a particular person has come, example is a bridge column is under distress. They want to prepare the bridge column. Different options are there. Which option to choose? This is the project. Unless you are an expert, you will not be able to say that these methods are wrong and go for this method, this will work. So for that, you are paid by the hour, you are paid by the day or by the project as a whole. Not employees of hiring organizations. You are working on your own as a research worker. You can be retainer consultant to one or more organizations. Many of the people, especially faculty members, do not know. I introduced the concept of what is known as retainer consultant in College of Engineering, Gindi, when I was dean. What is the difference between a retainer consultant and a research worker? Is a particular organization, example, railways, may have a repeated query on a particular project. The project I am referring to is using prestressed concrete sleepers instead of wooden sleepers. So this is they are using prestressed concrete sleepers instead of wooden sleepers. Thousands of questions will come when this is implemented in the field and over a period of time. So the industry cannot every time come to the institution for permission, etc. And therefore, the industry retains the educational institution as a retainer. That is, whenever they have a doubt, they will come to you, and for this, they pay a particular amount of money. So this is retainer consultant research grant. That grant will flow into the department, and when it flows into the department, your fundamental research will pick up. This is the area which one has to concentrate. Next slide, please. There are a lot of risks in becoming a researcher or a consultant, and one has to be prepared to take the risk. Who will take the risk? Here is where the leader becomes important. Leader of a group. The leader of a group becomes the risk taker. Freedom to choose their own hours. Research cannot be done only between 10 and 5. Research per se goes on day in and day out. Sometimes the results come unknowingly when you are in bed. Freedom to choose their own hours, take vacations when they want, pick clients, refuse on assignments, and work with a variety of projects. These are the most important things that a consultant or a research worker should know, or a faculty member should know. To let go of regular pay, administrative help, benefits, healthcare, technical support, and other things many employees take for granted. In a 9-to-5 job, in an ordinary office, all this is regular. But when for a faculty member, this alone is not the boundary. The boundary is much larger. The boundary is bigger than the confined work role that a faculty member is asked to take up with. Who sets the limit? It is not the institution that sets the limit. It is you who should set the limit, because it is your time and your area of research that you are pursuing. Next slide, please. What do you need to do research? There are certain things which are very, very important. There are certain things that you can take from the institution, and that there are certain things that should be your own. A computer, a business card, a telephone, and an internet connection is a must for any reasonable research work. You will need clients, expertise, experience, and other important pieces of the puzzle. Set up your consulting business, which can be a room with minor costs. It can be consulting, it can be research. You should be able to do what is known as out-of-the-box thinking. Nobody will come to you for a regular job. People are going to come to you for a job which is irregular, which is difficult, which they are not able to solve. So your solution also should be special, something different, something out of the box, not contemplated normally. Next slide, please. I have just put a sketch showing what are the various things one has to organize. How do I organize my desk? That's very, very important. Research work starts on your desk and of course continues elsewhere. But the desk has to have all conveniences, starting from completed projects. Several times, if you have completed the project, the progress you have made in that project will guide you to take and accept new projects. Next slide, please. A good consultant must be prepared to choose their knowledge base. The knowledge base has to be wide enough, but your area of research should be small enough so that you can peak in your area of research. Next slide. For instance, resources is the key word for any research or consultancy work. Everyone is indeed worried about resources. If we are able to show how to multiply the resources, how to reduce the cost, then projects will flow into you. Next slide, please. Before you decide to become a researcher consultant, ask yourself these questions. I have put these questions because you should be able to know what is it that others expect you to do when you are being named or tabled as an expert. Am I a leader? Am I self-confident? If you say for a client, I myself do not know, the client will lose faith in your work, and therefore you should be self-confident. Am I a leader? Am I a self-confident? Am I organized? Am I a self-starter? Am I competitive? Because projects, there are different institutions vying for the projects. The institution which is competitive will get the project ultimately. So am I competitive? Do I have lots of energy? You need to have a lot of energy to be a leader and to do research and to see that institution gets the funds. Next slide, please. Can I work long hours and unconventional schedules for unknown length of time? That is the bane of a research worker. Can I work long hours and unconventional schedules for an unknown length of time? Am I a risk taker? Can I sleep at night without knowing when I will see revenue? Sometimes your research work, if you are interested in an area, nobody will be willing to fund. But you should not lose hope and leave that project if you are convinced you should pursue. Do I have safety net? Can I afford to take this risk? Can I recover if I don't win? Sometimes you will plan a very big experiment. That experiment, unfortunately, when you say an experiment, you don't know the result. You would have expected a result, but when you have tested, the result will show that you have failed in your predictions. So what do? Do you cry in despair? No. That is a learning, and from that learning, you go forward. Next slide, please. Will my family support my decision? It is very important for us to be supported by a good family, because research per se is a career, and in that career you will have to lose a lot of time and sacrifices are inevitable. Do I have the interpersonal skills to make sales, manage clients, and negotiate with stakeholders? Though we are faculty members, we will have to deal with people who are willing to fund, and these people are the stakeholders, and therefore you should be able to negotiate and get things done the way you want. Do I have a decent credit rating? This is always very, very important. Sometimes you might have to worry about how you are going to make both ends meet, and therefore your credit rating should be good. And for that, you will have to work yourself up and see that you are at a position to be a leader in a research group. Next slide, please. Now, we should also know what are our areas of attack. Who hires researchers and consultants? Unless I know who is going to hire me and pay me, there is no point in doing research. Therefore, your research work should be useful to somebody, should be able to become a very important item in day-to-day life. Therefore, who hires researchers and consultancy is a very important knowledge base for one. Businesses, governments, and non-profit agencies use consultants. Governments, I have state government, central government. Central government has many defense organizations. Each defense organization is going to hire people for their own research projects. Non-profit agencies. One of the important non-profit agencies is agencies like United Nations Development Program, UNDP. Then agencies like Red Cross. These people hire. Then businesses, Larsen and Toubro, one example. Gammon India, another example. They hire consultants, they hire research workers from various institutions. Governments might hire writers. Many do not know some of the works which I have done is really people don't know that such things exist. Government wants reports to be generated. Who writes the report? On behalf of the administrators in the government, on behalf of Prime Minister, on behalf of Home Minister. Home Minister doesn't sit and write the report. It is written by a consultant research worker. Then it goes to the Home Minister for checking and clearing, and therefore governments hire writers and editors. So if you have a good knowledge base on how to write a research program or a research article in a Scopus journal, then you are a fit person to write on behalf of the government reports which will be vetted accepted, corrected, and for that your contribution is acknowledged. Executives may hire career coaches to help them improve their negotiating skills or make speeches to the board. You know, corporates have a board to get their grants sanctioned, and for this they hire research workers from the institutions, universities, so that they know how to present and get it through their board. So all these we should be able to know and position ourselves in such a manner that we are able to achieve what we want in the end. Right? Now you may wonder some point of time, is becoming a consultant worth it? Do you like to work regular hours? Is it important to you to have a steady paycheck? Are you willing to do your own administrative work, such as answering the phone, photocopying, responding to email, mailing out information, and other tasks that you might currently have other people to help with? One of the important traits of a research worker is to manage his administrative work himself and not hire people for that. And unless he does manage himself, he will not have full control of the research program. And therefore, you will have to spend, and this will give you returns in the long run. Next slide, please. Are you willing to trade regular hours for a schedule that you may see you work evenings and weekends and long hours as you ramp up? Do you need someone to tell you to start or keep working at a project? Can you get up in the morning and start working without being told to do so? So these are the sacrifices that you might have to do for research, for pursuing good quality research. Next slide, please. Now, I have been not going into a particular area of research. You will have to choose, faculty members will have to choose your area of research, area of consulting. I don't separate the research and consulting. Consulting for a mundane problem is trade. Consulting for a novel problem is research. So at one end of the spectrum of consultancy is trade. At the other end of the spectrum of consultancy is research. So choose your research and consulting field. Your job and work history may help point you in the right direction. And take a look at all kinds of consultants you can become. But if you are not sure what kind of consulting business would suit you, consider downloading Discover Your Inner Consultant Guide. This can be downloaded from the internet. Sometimes it just helps to go through a process of discovering your passions, skills, talents, and unique opportunities. Opportunities are quite large. In those opportunities, you have your interests. So you have to dovetail your interests with the opportunities, choose that field, and once you choose the field, do not look back. Work very steadfastly on the field that you have chosen. Next slide, please. Now comes so far what I have done is I have been talking about the research requirements for a faculty member, what a faculty member can do in different areas, etc. But I have not told you how these areas are being chosen. Now I am going to present to you some of my own experience in doing research and consultancy as a group, as a team leader. Many of you may know that we were very badly affected by the tsunami. When Indonesia had the earthquake, giant waves lashed out on the east coast of Tamil Nadu, and lot of people lost their lives. So this is a calamity. So at the end of the calamity, what emerges is we build back better. That is, you have to push away the calamity and see that what you are going to achieve after the calamity is having such things as in future you will not have such calamity. So to do this, you need to have lot of research work done. Now, when the calamity struck, I submitted a proposal to United Nations Development Program on how government of Tamil Nadu can position itself in the area of research, in the area of building back better. What we call, the houses have been demolished, the livelihood have been destroyed. So how do you build this back better? This was a research project for the government of Tamil Nadu, funded by United Nations Development Program. So you can see there is a calamity. That calamity is to be avoided. To avoid that calamity, you propose a massive research project which has different areas of approach. It can have civil engineering, it can have environmental engineering, all engineering comes together, but each one has a separate research project. This is, and to oversee all this and to lead the entire group, you need a consultant. So this is how major research project and consultants are introduced after a massive failure. Next slide, please. This is how the tsunami destroyed the buildings. So the research project envisaged construction of tsunami-resistant houses. Then identification of land where these buildings can be built. All these, each one is a separate research project. Next slide, please. So what were the challenges? After the project was sent to Government of India, and then the project was cleared, I was appointed as a UNDP expert. So what are the challenges in front of me? To ensure incorporation of disaster-resistant features in the buildings that are being built. So new codes were developed and new Government of Tamil Nadu guidelines were prepared. Skill upgradation of construction workers. Construction workers were trained to do proper construction involving earthquake-resistant features. Sourcing of materials for all districts which were affected in the coastal region. Materials are not same. So you choose materials which are cheapest at the place where you want to build. Sourcing materials, technology, design. Quality system, introduce quality system. Building better habitat. Ultimately, all these leads to building better habitat. Cost effective technology was introduced. Labor, was provided by the house owners themselves in many places. So each one was a research project, and it was able to mark what is the benefits that could be harvested by the government because they have utilized the research identified by the team and given to the users at various sites. Next slide, please. Some model houses were built. Shake table tests were conducted. The shake table test was conducted at Coimbatore Institute of Technology, funded by United Nations Development Program under this overall scheme. Next slide. I will leave that project at that level. This is one example. The second example, which I would like to tell you how a particular chosen area has blossomed into a very major research project, is design of transmission towers. You can see that Tamil Nadu is a power-hungry state. We need more power. We don't have enough power. Power is being produced elsewhere, so we will have to transport power. For transporting power, for transporting traffic, you need bridges. For transporting power, you need transmission tower. If you see one line, if you take between Chennai and Hyderabad, thousands of towers coming. And so when you design one tower, even if you save a small quantity of steel in one tower, for 1,000 towers, it is multiplied by 1,000. That is the advantage the government gets. But what does the university and the research worker get? The university and research worker gets an ability to optimize the structure so that he spends least quantity of steel. And when he spends least quantity of steel, let us say he saves about 10 kg in per tower, multiplied by 1,000 or 5,000. So type designs were evolved for Tamil Nadu Electricity Board. It was vetted. Some towers were tested in Structural Engineering Research Center. Ultimately, the government accepted the results and was able to save nearly 20% of the original cost. Now, a chair was created in Anna University called Appadurai Chair for Power Systems. Major thrust was on transmission tower. That chair was responsible for bringing out an internationally accepted book, Transmission Line Towers, which no other country has published, and therefore that book was used as a textbook in more than 60 universities all over the world. So this is the whiplash effect that comes out of a research work. And you can see all started of saving steel for the country. The project achieved saving steel for the country. At the same time, it also achieved to document and propagate the idea to many other countries also. That is the project on transmission tower. So when you are envisaging a project, you will have to envisage a project which has different branches, and in different branches, the contributions will be really worthwhile to make. Next slide, please. There are some projects which I thought I will see. In some cases, you might have, if you are an expert, you might have to help the government in solving some very ticklish problems. As a research worker, I had two such problems to solve. during my career. One is a multi-story building in Beach Road, which was just about to collapse. The government wanted us to interfere and then set it right. We did it. We did set it right, and that became a research work ultimately with a PhD degree for a candidate. The other project was on ticklish issue between Kerala government and Tamil Nadu government, namely the safety of Mullai Periyar Dam. Kerala was saying that it is unsafe. Tamil Nadu government was saying it is safe. So how do we, this went to court, and the court asked the university to examine and report. We did a very detailed examination. We did simulation and showed that up to a particular level, the dam is safe, and beyond that level, the dam is not safe. That is, the court accepted our research work and then passed judgment. Based on that judgment, now water is stored 5 feet additional, which creates double the amount of area that can be irrigated. So this is another project in which I was involved on behalf of the government of Tamil Nadu. So here in the building, multi-story building project, multi-story building, when they originally designed, there was a mistake. Inadvertently, the folded plate was linked to the column and made fixed. It was designed by the designer as a hinged column, but people in construction made it a fixed column. So that fixity moment, the column could not take, and so the column cracked. And when they released the formwork for the folded plate, which was 160 feet in span, the folded plate was coming down, breaking the column. So at that time, they stopped de-shuttering, came to us in the college and asked us to rectify the situation. It was an urgent work because it was a work involving safety of people in that building. We did reanalyze the whole structure, then found that the mistake was because of anchorage. We released the anchorage by cutting the column, introducing a neoprene pad, and then released the shuttering. And when the shuttering was being released, the secretary to the government was there, and he said, I was there and I was underneath the building. The secretary said, I will not stay underneath the building because I am still not convinced. I said, I will stay underneath the building when the shuttering is released. The shuttering was released, the building was safe, and it is now, this happened in 1988. Even today, the building, you can see, has those cut columns and still very intact and safe, being used by everybody. So that is the case study which I have shown here. In fact, this led to a branch of study in the College of Engineering, Guindy, on repair and rehabilitation of reinforced concrete structure that ultimately led to many PhD students working on that. Next slide, please. This is the folded plate. This is the point where the rods were taken in and anchored, and therefore the columns started cracking. Next slide. These are the columns. You can see the anchorage done. These are the columns which cracked. Next slide. The solution that we came is the columns was cut at the springing level of the lintel level, and neoprene bearing was introduced. Shear strength was rechecked, taking skin reinforcement into account. The shuttering was then released. That is the solution that we gave Next slide. These are some equations. I don't want to go into the equations. So afterwards, the column was, the shuttering was released and the structure was made through. This is another project in which the same repair technology. You can go to the next slide. This is a factory building in which they had put truss supported on a column, and the column cracked. So the repair was done by a novel method of using pre-stress and introducing a bracket below the truss support system. And again, this shows that once you start one area of research, there will be a lot of additional work coming to you. Each one will give you a new dimension and will become a new project. Next slide, please. This is the bracket that was introduced below the truss. Next slide, please. This is another repair and rehabilitation project led to a PhD, about 4 or 5 PhDs. This water tank supported on columns. Water tank was subjected to cyclonic weather. The columns cracked. There were about 250 water tanks such cracks had occurred. They wanted an easy method of repair. The easy method of repair that was proposed was to fill the infill into brickwork and convert the frame into an infill frame so that the strength of support system increases. Next slide, please. This is how the infilled frame is now supporting the water tank, and the solution is perfect. It was done in all the 200 tanks by the Tamil Nadu Water Supply and Drainage Board. Next slide, please. This is an intake tower. Corrosion was the subject matter. The intake tower had corrosion, severe corrosion, and the bridge, the water that was being carried to the prawn farm had to be continued even after damage to the intake tower. Next slide, please. This is how it collapsed. And after collapse, they wanted to still carry the water. So we had designed fume pipe and rectified and restored the water tank in less than a day. Because if the seawater is not pumped to the prawn farm, all the prawns will get killed. Therefore, emergency repair and rehabilitation work was done. And of course, afterwards, the whole thing was revamped. But this led to a series of PhD studies on corrosion, on method of building intake towers, like that. Therefore, every adversary becomes an advantage if you look at it in a proper sense. Next slide, please. This is the overall view. This is one portion. This is one portion. This is another portion. Here is the place where we have fume pipe from here to here was connected and water supply was restored. Next slide. This is a very novel research work undertaken for BHEL, Trichy, stainless steel plant, stainless steel tube plant. Now they had this, because for manufacture of stainless steel, they use a lot of chlorides, and those chlorides have affected the building. But the building was still capable of performing, and therefore they wanted to know how much damage is occurring to the columns. So what we have done is we have positioned half cells in the columns, and these half cells was monitored from Chennai. This is in Trichy. Was monitored in Chennai, from Chennai, and the building was permitted to continue operation for 5 years, and after 5 years, when the levels became too high, the building was asked to be demolished and rebuilt. Therefore, we could give an extension of 5 years lifetime for a massive structure by introducing what are known as health monitoring, continuous health monitoring to this structure. Next slide, please. This is another very interesting story of a building that was not following rules. The building permission was got for 4 stories, but the owner and contractor connived and built, instead of 4 stories, 8 stories. The building exists in Poyas Garden. So when the 8th story was being built, the bottom story column burst. You can see the burst column there. Now this again was an emergency, and to overcome the collapse of the building, we from the laboratory took jacks and supported the building temporarily, and afterwards re-examined the structural analysis and came to the conclusion that the columns will not carry the number of stories that has been built. So the recommendation that was given was to demolish a couple of stories so that the gravity load gets reduced. It was a court case. Ultimately, court order was there to demolish 2 stories, and 2 stories was demolished, and the building is now intact with less number of stories. Next slide, please. This is the temporary supports. Next slide, please. This is the demolition of the topmost story. Next slide, please. So that again was a very interesting output. In an institution, you have students, research scholars, colleagues, laboratory, and people who assist all these people. So all of them should work as a team, and every project has to be comprised of a team, and this team has to become bigger and larger. That will give you enough credibility for attracting massive projects. Next slide, please. I have some sample of the work done at Anna University. Analysis of Periyar Dam, I talked about it. Coimbatore bus shelter, Kamaraj terminal for airport hangar, Trichy water supply scheme, I talked about it. 22-story and 36-story building in Sri Lanka for L&T. We did the first shear wall design for these 2 buildings way back in 1974. That was the tallest building in Sri Lanka at that time. Expansion of Central Station, many of you might have seen the expansion of Central Station. Same type of building repeated, so that the architectural beauty is not lost. Then rehabilitation of police headquarters, that also you might see in the beach. It was rehabilitated so that the old glory is preserved. Next slide. I moved from College of Engineering India to IIT Madras, and when I was in IIT Madras, I initiated a few projects, which was a grand success, because there 3 institutions came together: IIT Madras, Anna University, as well as Structural Engineering Research Center. We put joint projects. The projects that jointly we worked, I have listed here. NPTEL program, National Program on Technology Enhanced Learning. NPTEL program can be seen even now. Then NPEEE program, National Program on Earthquake Engineering Education. CPWD Retrofitting Handbook. CPWD wanted a retrofitting handbook. That retrofitting handbook was developed there. Revision of Steel Code. 3 institutions came together. Draft code was prepared and tabled. And Tata's gave the money. And now you have the IS 800-2007. Architectural Handbook published by the Institute of Steel Development and Growth. Airport buildings at Vizag and Hyderabad. Bridge launching order for L&T. We simplified the launching order. We converted it from a steel launching order to aluminum launching order. When collapse of the gantry girder for NLC, we did a serious examination of why the gantry girder collapsed. Gantry girder was built by Mukund Cranes, and we did the failure analysis. Next slide, please. As an independent consultant and a research worker, we published a book on McGraw-Hill Book Company, that is Transmission Tower, then Oxford IBH, then Foster Wheeler. Number of articles were published in the Hindu, which will go to the public to show to the public what is being done. Then Tamil Nadu Slum Clearance Board, Government of India, Bhubaneswar project. This was a very, very interesting project for drainage. United Nations Development Program and Government of India. Next slide, please. I introduced the concept of retainer consultant. I told you what a retainer consultant is. Retainer consultant, an organization retains a faculty member as a consultant and pays monthly and consults him whenever there is a need for consultation for a particular research project. Next slide, please. So teaching, research, consultancy all go together in a university setup. And you will have to dovetail your teaching load, your research load, your consultancy load in such a manner that it optimizes your output and gets maximum benefit to you and to your institution. This was my thinking, and wherever I went, I had adopted this policy to attract good projects from government as well as private sector. Thank you. I think that's the last one. Next slide, please. Thank you. Now, if you have any doubts or points for discussion, we can.
Thank you so much, sir, for giving us the wonderful session. Participants, if you have any queries, kindly post it in the chat box.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the wonderful session. We got in-depth idea about research, consultancy, and also the funding opportunities for civil engineering and overall engineering. Thank you for accepting our invitation.
Any questions?
If you have any queries, please post in chat box.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving us very informative session. Really, we learned a lot and we gained more knowledge on research. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I am always available. My mail ID is with you. So anybody who wants to have any further information, please don't hesitate to send me a mail.
Sure, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. We will share your PPT to all the participants. Thank you.
Yeah, you
Thank
can
you.
share the PPT to all the participants, no problem. It doesn't have any copyright. It is my own.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Attendance link will be shared in the chat box. Kindly fill it. Tomorrow join at 10:30, same time.
Most of the comments are positive. So I am very much thankful to all of you for giving me an opportunity to be with you today morning.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, can I ask one doubt to you, sir?
Yeah.
With your permission.
Yeah.
Sir, regarding concrete technology, I need one clarification, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, when we are pouring the roof concrete, after 24 hours, we can see small minor crack on slabs, roofs. In slab and roofs, sir.
Yeah.
May I know the reason for it, sir?
Actually, see, any concrete is made with cement aggregate and water. Now, when it sets, the concrete shrinks.
Thanks, sir. Sir, we have a lot of learn from you and also a lot to learn. Please send me a WhatsApp group link and add me contacts
Yeah,
and further
actually,
details.
my email ID is there with the organizer. You can collect my email ID or you can note it down, santaar@gmail.com. You can always be in touch with me through email. Any other question? The cracks occur because of shrinkage. The roof, because when it solidifies, it shrinks. So shrinkage cracks occur. And you can avoid the shrinkage cracks by careful design of your mix, depending upon the type of ingredients you use in the mix.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And one more question, sir. When we are using the mix design for M20 in village areas, I'm from basically village, sir. So here they are not using the proper mix design. For example, for M20, the normal mix, our mix 1.5 3, but they are using 1 2 3.
Actually, this nominal mix is not to be used anywhere. The mix design will give you exactly what should be the ratio, because either 1.5 3 or 1 to 4 or 1 to 3, these will not give you the required strength and durability. You will have to do a mix design and use a proper water cement ratio for that mix design. That only will give you the concrete which is durable.
Okay.
Nowhere else in the world they are using nominal mix. Only in India they are using, and because of that our structures are poor.
Oh, okay, sir. Okay, sir. Sir, and final questions. Final question, sir. May I, sir?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sir. In beam reinforcement, we will provide extra bars in tensile zones, sir. For example, in a support, in the tensile area, we will provide extra bars. In one conditions, two 16s and two 12 bars I have to provide, sir. Uh, for providing the two 16s, there won't be any gap between one intermediate rod to another rod. I decided to tie the two 16 in a very close manner without giving a single inch of gap, sir. Shall I do it this kind of activities in construction areas, or otherwise I have to provide a in a 1 inch gap between one rod to another rod, sir?
See, actually, you have asked two questions. In
Yes,
that
sir.
your doubt, there are two questions. One is, what should be the minimum spacing between the reinforcement? The minimum in the reinforcement has to be maintained normally.
Okay.
Now, if you maintain the minimum spacing, your width of the beam is not enough. In such a case, you will have to use a special technology called bundling of bars. That is, you can use two 16 mm bundled together. But if you are using bundled bars, there is regulations of how to use bundled bars given in IS 456 that and SP 34. Now you have to follow that regulation. Bundling of bars is permitted, but it should be as per what is given in the code.
Okay, sir. So thank you very much for your valuable answers and suggestions also, sir.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Then shall we close down the session?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you so much for spending your time and giving us a valuable information. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you all. Kindly fill the attendance link. Tomorrow join at the same time.